Hello everyone, welcome to the CloudLearn AWS Zero to Hero series. This is day 11 video. In this video, we are going to talk about simple storage service, which is also known as S3, simple storage service, which is S3. Based on the name, we can identify this as a kind of a storage, right? In the previous videos, we have seen a storage called Elastic Block Store, which is a block-based storage. And this simple storage service or S3 is a storage type which is object based, which is object based. What is this object based means? What is this object based storage? Object based storage means that can be only used to store the objects. Like if you see the EBS that you can use as a storage for your EC2 instance. If it is a root volume, you can install the operating system, right? If it is additional volume, you can install some extra softwares and all, and also you can store the data. But coming to this S3, it doesn't support operating system installations and the software installation. Let me give you some comparison. Let us say the Google Drive, right? The best example is the Google Drive. What is the purpose of the Google Drive? Google Drive can be used to store your data, but you cannot use that as a hard disk for your laptop, right? Means you can't install your operating system in the Google Drive. You can't install your applications or softwares in the Google Drive. The same way the S3 works. It's just an object-based storage in which you can store your objects, and also you can share those objects with anyone. What is the object? Object is any file or a folder like PDF files, documents, images, video files, audio files, zip files, anything, softwares, storing the softwares, not installing the softwares. Okay, so coming to this S3, S3 is AWS managed, highly available, highly scalable, object-based storage. What is the meaning of AWS managed service? AWS managed service means that service will be maintained and managed by AWS. We are not responsible to make that S3 storage up and running or accessible or available. Everything will be taken care by the AWS. Just we will use it. Google Drive. We are not responsible to make that Google Drive server up and running, healthy, available at all. That will be taken care by the Google. Just we use that Google Drive. The same way, S3 is a AWS managed, highly available, highly scalable. What is the highly scalable? Let us say now I'm going to store 100 GB data. Yes, it will accept you to store 100 GB. And if I want to upload 1000 GB, yes, it allows you to upload. Like based on your requirement, based on your usage, automatically it will scale up. Automatically it will increase the storage capacity. And you will be charged only for the amount of storage space which we are using. If you upload 1 GB data, you will be charged for that 1 GB only. Okay, so here we can S3 can be used to, we can upload any type of object. We can upload any type of object into S3, and and we can share those objects with anyone. If you want to keep them private, you can keep them as a private object so that nobody can access or nobody can see your data. But if you want to share with someone, yes, you can. Like a Google Drive. If you upload a document in the Google Drive, you can make that object as a public, or you can make that object as a private, the document, so that nobody can view your data. And the most important thing is S3 cannot be used as storage for your EC2 instances. You can't use that as a C drive, D drive, E drive, and so on. And also, S3 doesn't support operating system and software installations. Means you can't install any operating system or any softwares into that S3 storage. Okay, if you go back to the EBS, we created like 1 GB space, 3 GB space, 5 GB space, and so on. And we call that storage space as a volume, right? In the EBC. Here, the S3 storage is available as a bucket. We call that container. Whatever the S3 storage we are getting, we call that as a container or whatever, that is technically known as a bucket. So bucket is a container in which all the objects will be stored. All the objects will be stored. And this S3 supports unlimited storage space. You can upload unlimited storage, but each object must not exceed 5 terabyte. Let us say I have 100 files. Each file size is a 1 TB, 1 terabyte. You can upload all 100 terabytes. There is no restriction. But each file, technically we call as an object, each object must be less than or equal to 5 terabytes. If you have a 5 terabyte file and you can upload such kind of objects like thousands and thousands. And this S3 offers 99.99% of availability. Means at any given point of time, your objects are available to access 99.99% of time. And also S3 offers 99.2345678 9. This is a durability. This is also known as 11 nines of a durability. What is the durability? In case of worst thing happened, in case of worst thing happened, in such cases, 99.99 of 99 percentage of data can be recovered. Technically speaking, you won't lose any data, and this durability indicates you can store hundreds of terabytes of data for hundreds of years without losing a single object, single file. That is the meaning of this durability. And I said the container, like whenever you want to store some data into the S3, we have to create a bucket. EBS, we created a volume 1 GB, 10 GB, 5 GB. But here we need to create a bucket. But we will never define the size of the bucket because it supports unlimited storage. Based on your usage, automatically it will grow. It will shrink whenever you don't use any data, whenever you don't store any data. And while creating this bucket, while creating the bucket, we must follow, or I can say, we have to assign a name for the bucket. And we must follow naming rules. You can't give whatever the name you want. There are some rules you must follow while creating the bucket, which means, so let us say I want to store some data so that I can share with all you guys. So what I have to do is, first I have to create a bucket. First, I have to create a bucket. S3 bucket. So what all I have to choose first, in which region I would like to create. I have to mention the region name so that all my data will be located in that particular geographical location, that particular geographical region. And then I have to give a name. I have to give a bucket name. While assigning the name to the S3 bucket, we must follow some rules. What are those rules? It must be unique across all AWS account. For example, in my AWS account, if I create one bucket called, let us say, uh, first bucket. I have created one bucket called first bucket. Nobody else can use the same name for their S3 bucket. So the bucket name must be unique across all AWS accounts, and the name must be between 3 to 63 characters. The name of the S3 bucket must be minimum 3 characters and maximum 63 characters. And then no uppercase characters. You can't use capital A, capital B, capital C, and so on. You can't use that. And then you can use lowercase, small letters, numbers, no special characters, but no special characters. No special character means at the rate symbol, dollar, pound, no special characters, except you can use a dot and a dash. This is also, dot is also known as a period. You can use a dot and a dash in the name of the S3 buckets. And the bucket name must not looks like an IP address. How IP address look like? Example of the IP address, right? The bucket name must not contain or must not looks like an IP address. And then bucket name must start and end with either lowercase or a number. Lowercase or a number. You can't, what we call that, you can't start a name of the bucket with a dot or dash. And the bucket name must not contain two consecutive periods, two consecutive dots. I can say first dot bucket, this is a valid, this is a valid, but if you use two consecutive dots like this, first a dot dot bucket, which is invalid. So these are the rules you must follow at the time of creating S3 bucket. Let me write down the rules. S3 bucket naming rules. What is the first rule we covered? Bucket name must be unique across all AWS accounts. And then bucket name must be between 3 and 63 characters, which means the length of the S3 bucket. Then the next one is bucket name must not contain uppercase characters. Like example, capital A, capital B, capital C, and so on. Capital letters are not allowed. Bucket name can contain lowercase characters and numbers. And bucket name must not contain special characters except period. Period means dot. Dot is known as a period, and dash. These two you can use. Then the bucket name must not looks like an IP address. 192.168.1.8. This is an example. The bucket name must not looks like in this format. It should not resembles an IP address. And the bucket name must start and end with either lowercase letter or a number, which means a bucket name must not start with a dot, it must not end with a dot, it must not start with a dash or end with a dash. It must start and end with either a lowercase character or a number. Bucket name must not contain consecutive periods. Example, my dot dot S3 bucket. Here you can see two dots, two periods, right? Bucket name must not contain in that way. So what I will do now is, let me list out valid bucket names so that we will get some clarity on that. So first one, my S3 bucket, which is a valid. If it is a unique, then my dot s3 dot bucket, which is a valid, my dash s3 dash bucket, that is also valid, my dash dash s3 bucket, that is also valid. We will verify all these practically, whether they are valid or not. 123 dot my s3 bucket, which is also valid, my s3 bucket 1234, which is also valid. Only restriction is it must not contain two periods. It must not contain two periods. Okay, now let me list out invalid bucket names. Invalid bucket names. Dot my s3 bucket, because it did not started with lowercase or a number. It starts with a dot. My s3 bucket, which is invalid because it contains a capital letter. My dot dot s3 bucket, again invalid because it contains two consecutive periods. And then my s3 bucket dash, invalid because it ends with a dash. Invalid because it looks like an IP address. Okay, this is a valid. This is invalid because it contains a capital letter. Contains a capital letter. So this is how you can identify whether the bucket name is valid or invalid. And recently, Amazon introduced two types of S3 buckets. But in the real time, we only use one type of a bucket because it has a lot of features and all the things. Let me list out. AWS S3 provides two types of S3 buckets. One is general purpose S3 bucket, and the second one is a directory bucket. What is the difference? In the general purpose S3 buckets, we will get all the features. We have a lot of features like static website hosting, what we call that replication rules, I mean, cross-region replication, right? And what we call that the lifecycle management. We have a lot of features, but the directory bucket doesn't have all these. Then what is the use? Even you can't get the durability with the directory bucket. What is the use of the directory bucket is these directory buckets can provide single digit millisecond latency. I mean, means within a millisecond, the object can be accessible, but it is not recommended for production or a critical data. Why? Because you don't get high availability and high reliability. That is only for non-critical data, to store non-critical data. But the advantage is it will offer you single digit millisecond latency. Like within 9 milliseconds, that object can be accessible. So I can say directory buckets can provide single digit millisecond latency for object access, but it is not recommended for production or a critical data. Okay, now let us go with the creation of the S3 bucket, how to create the S3 bucket, how to upload an object, how can we share the object with someone, all the things we can see. So first thing, we will create an S3 bucket in Northern Virginia region with a name, my first bucket 22 Feb 2025. Why I'm using the name? For uniqueness. If I use just a name called my first bucket, there is a chance that someone might have already used that bucket name. We will verify. While creating this bucket, we will verify all naming rules. Whatever the theoretically we discussed, are these rules are correct or not, that we will verify at the time of creating the S3 bucket. Okay. So Let me get into our AWS account. So this is our AWS account. In the search, just type S3 service, scalable storage in the cloud. Let me click on S3. Okay, already I have few buckets, ignore them. So here, this is how the S3 console looks like, S3 dashboard looks like. And here we can click on this create bucket, or here you can see there are two different tabs, general purpose buckets and directory buckets. If you want to create a directory bucket, you need to click here and you need to create the bucket, but which is not recommended for production or a critical data. And this is a commonly used type of S3 buckets in the real time. So here, click on create bucket. So here, bucket type. Here also you can choose what type of bucket you would like to have. Bucket name. What I do is my first bucket. I would like to use the name. There is a chance, high chances that this name might already exist. So here, let me go to the naming rules. First, let us verify this one. Bucket name must be unique across all AWS accounts. Okay, what I do is this is a bucket name. I will ignore all options. I don't want to use all these options because we have a separate sessions for each and every topic, encryption, versioning. For everything, we have a separate sessions. Let me click on create bucket. What happened? Something you can see in the red color. What is the bucket with the same name already exist, but not in my account. Somewhere across the globe, someone is already having a bucket with this particular name. You can see bucket name must be unique within the global namespace and follow the bucket naming rules. Okay, now what is the next one? Bucket name must be between 3 and 63 characters. Let me use a bucket name with a 2 characters. What happened here? Bucket name must be between a 3 and a 63 character slot. Means you can't use a bucket name with a 2 characters. What is the next one? Uppercase. So I will say my S3 bucket. What is the error? Bucket name must not contain uppercase. And it can have a lowercase, right? Okay, what I do is my S3 bucket, but it already exists, right? For uniqueness, I will use today's date, 22 Feb 2025. See here, no error because it's a unique, all lowercase, all numbers. Then what else we have to verify? It can contain dot and a dash, except any other special character. Okay, let me use special character called at the rate. I'm getting error, invalid character. Let me use a different thing. See here, even space doesn't allow. You can use a dot or you can use a dash. No issues. Then it must not looks like an IP address. 192.168.1.54. See here, bucket name must not resemble an IP address. Bucket name must start and end with either lowercase letter or a number. Means if I use my S3 bucket 22 Feb 2025, bucket name must start with a lowercase letter or a number because here it starts with a period. Let me check with dash. Doesn't allow. At the end, let me type no dash no. What is the next one? It should not contain two consecutive dots. Bucket name must not contain two adjacent periods. Can I use two adjacent dash? Yes, that works. Can I use two dots separately? Yes, that also works. So this is how you can verify the naming rules. Okay. And here I don't want to enable any of these things for now. Directly I will create. See here, what are the options we have? Object ownerships, ACLs disabled. I will explain what is this ACL in the next practical. In the today's video only, in the next practical, I will explain. ACLs disabled, block all public access enabled means by default, all your objects will be uploaded as a private objects. So scroll down and click on create bucket. Our first bucket is getting created. See here, this is the bucket, my S3 bucket 22 Feb 2024, region, which is in the Northern Virginia, US East 1, and creation date, February 22, 2025. Now, what we do is, let us upload one object. How to upload an object into the S3 bucket? Upload any object into the S3 bucket with all default options. Don't change any options at the time of upload. Okay, let me save this. Yeah. Okay, or what I do is, let me create one file just to upload. So I can say my first file for S3 bucket. Let me save it. I will say, yeah, I can say test file, save. Okay, so I have a file test.txt and I want to upload that object into S3 bucket, this file. How to upload? So first you have to go to the S3 service. This is the S3. On the left side, you can see one option called general purpose general purpose buckets. Click on that. Click on your S3 bucket, my S3 bucket 22 Feb 2024. Here you can see there are different tabs. We will go through each and every tab. Click on upload, add a file, and here is the file, open. Test.txt is the name of the object which we are uploading, and to which destination? This is the S3 bucket. This is the S3 bucket into which we are uploading the object. And I don't want to get any permissions or properties now. Just I will go with all default options. Click on upload. Yes, object got uploaded. See here, this is the object. Whenever you upload an object, whenever you upload an object, for every object, you will receive an object URL. Object URL, note down the object URL. So if you click on the object, you will see the properties of the object. Who is the owner, in which region it is, when it was last modified, size, type, key means name, S3 object URL. This is the object URL. So by default, every object will be uploaded as a private object. Every object will be uploaded as a private object. How to verify? If you share that object URL to anyone, and if they try to access the object, they will get an error. What is the error? Access denied. Means by default, all objects, all objects will be uploaded into the S3 bucket as a private object. So I can say object URL can be used to access the objects if the object is a public. If the object is private, obviously they will get access denied error, which we have verified. So you have to check that. Use the object URL to access the S3 object and confirm that the object is a private. Already we confirmed, right? We verified. So you can write down, like you can note down, by default, all S3 objects will be uploaded as a private objects. Now the question is why? The question is why? Why every object is uploaded as a private object? Because of two different options. Even if you want to upload an object into the S3 bucket as a public, which is not possible by default, which is not possible by default. So how your bucket is private is, how the bucket is private, because of two options. One is ACL and the second one is block all public access. And I can say we can convert any private object into public as per the requirements. If you have a requirement to make the object, yes, you can make that object as a public object, but by default, they are a private. How we can do that? To make any object into public, ACL can be used to convert any object into publicly readable. Means anybody can read that object. What is the full form of ACL? Access, control, a list. So what we have to do is why by default our S3 buckets are private. Why? Because if you observe, while creating the S3 bucket with all default options, the following settings were configured. What are those? The first one is ACLs disabled by default, and the second one is block all public access enabled. Because of these two different options configured, by default, all your objects becomes a private. And if you want to make any object into public, ACL must be enabled in order to make any object public. But but if you enable ACL, but still you cannot make or you cannot convert any object into public. Why? Because of this option. What this option will do is by default it will not allow any object to become a public. So what we have to do, we need to disable this option and we need to enable this option so that still all objects will be private by default, but you will have an option to make any object into a public. So I can write down like while making the objects public, using the ACL, block all public access setting will not allow us to make the object public. It will deny. So what we have to do, we must disable block all public access option also. And the most important point here is disabling block all public access setting will not make your objects public automatically. Your objects are still your objects are private, but disabling block all public access means you will have an opportunity, you will have a right to make the objects into public if required. So what we do, how to verify that? How can we verify? We will do that. Make the object, the one which we uploaded already, which is a test.txt, as a public object. What all we have to do first? First, we need to enable ACL on the S3 bucket, first point. Then disable block all public access. And then you can make the object as a public object. What we do is, without doing all this, let me try to make the object public, which is not possible. And then I will enable ACL and I will try to make the object public, still, which is not possible. Then I will disable the block all public access also, and then we can successfully convert that object into public object. Let us verify that. So here, let me go back to the AWS homepage. Let me navigate into S3 service. And let me click on our S3 bucket. This is the S3 bucket, right? This is the object. This is the object which we would like to make public. How to make the object public? Select the object which you would like to make as a public. Click on Actions. And here you can see one option called Make Public using ACL, which is not available. See here, because ACL service is disabled. So we must enable. So how to enable? Go to the Permissions tab, and under the Permissions tab, you can see one option called Object Ownership. Click on Edit. ACLs disabled, right? Let me enable ACLs. And here select the checkbox and I acknowledge that ACLs will be restored and click on Save Changes. So we enabled ACL, but still the block all public access is on, means enabled. Now let me try to make the object as a public. Just go to the Objects tab, select the object, Actions. Now you got that Make Public using ACL option. Let me click on that, click on Make Public, and you will get an error. See here, fail to edit public access, fail to edit public access. What is the error? If you click on this error, access denied. But I am the root user. But why I was denied? Because of the option which is configured on your S3 bucket. What is that option? Block all public access enabled by default. So what you have to do, click on Permissions tab of the S3 bucket. This is the one. Click on Edit. Click on Edit against Block Public Access Bucket Setting. Uncheck the checkbox called Block All Public Access. Then click on Save Changes. And for the confirmation, type Confirm. Click on Confirm and Save Changes. Done. Now block all public access is off, means disabled. Now click on Objects tab. Select the object, but still our object is private. How to verify? Where is the object URL? Okay, here is the object URL. Let me open a different browser. Let me access it. Still, I will get access denied because we have an option to make the object public. We haven't converted or we haven't made the object as a public. Now we have to make that object as a public. How to do that? Select the object, Actions, make public using ACL, and make public. And successfully edited public access means now this object URL can be used to access the object by anyone. By anyone. See here, this is how you can convert any object into public object. Even now, if you upload any object with all default options, still the object will be public. Sorry, still the object is a private. But how can we upload an object as a public while uploading it? I don't want to upload it as a first as a private, and then I don't want to convert it into public. While uploading itself, I want to make that as a, what we call that, the public object. How to do that? Let us see. Let me create a file. New text file. I will say test2. I can say this is a public object, just a differentiation. Say, okay, how to upload an object as a public directly while uploading into the S3 bucket. How to do that? Go to your S3 bucket, AWS S3 service, click on your bucket, click on upload, add files, and this is the one. Instead of, if I click on upload, it will be uploaded as a private object. If you want to make it as a public, before clicking on upload, here you can see one option called permissions. Click on that. And here, grant public read access. Select this one, select the checkbox, and click on upload. Now, this object will be uploaded as a public object. How to verify that? Click on the object, get the object URL, open the browser, paste it, and enter. See here. By default, it upload as a public because while uploading it, we modified the grant public read access into public. That's how we can upload an object into public object. And one more thing before closing this. So these are the objects, right? Object name. This is also called as a key. Type of the object, when it was modified, what is the size, and a storage class. AWS S3 offers different types of storage classes, and each storage class is designed for different use cases. What are those use cases and all we will discuss in the next video. The next video is completely for storage classes. Okay, right. I hope you are clear with AWS S3, like what is AWS S3, what is a S3 bucket, what are the limitations, how what is the each file size that we can upload, how to create the bucket, what are the naming rules, how to upload an object as a private, public. I hope you guys are clear with these things. If you have any questions, ask your questions in the comment section and I will answer those questions. Thank you, everyone.